Who'd like to start it out?
RG3 and a couple of the players yesterday were saying the way you won that game, it could be a turning point for the season. As a coach, can you look at it that way, or is that something that you can sort of play on, especially with another game coming up so quick?
I think it's great when you can win a game that way, where the team has first and goal on the 1 yard line with 21 seconds left and a couple timeouts, and you find a way not only to stop them, but lucky enough to win the toss and get about on an 80-yard drive and find a way to get in the end zone. So, yeah, that was a big win for us, no question about it.
You've talked for a few years about quarterbacks making their money on third down. You guys were 12 of 17, and I'm sure you'll say that there's a lot of things that went into that, but Robert seemed to really play well on that down, make a couple of really tough throws. What do you think about him in those situations, throwing into some tight windows?
Well, as you mentioned, the great quarterbacks are the guys that are consistent on third down, and I thought Robert had his best game of the year. Anytime you're over 70% in third down conversions, your quarterback is normally playing extremely well. And that's what you got to do. You got to do that consistently. If you take a look at third down conversions year in, year out, top quarterbacks are always up there.
Mike, the run game yesterday got off to a slow start in the first quarter. I think in the second quarter, once Alfred got that 26-yard run, you guys really took off. What changed, if anything, in that time?
I think I said this at the beginning of the year. If it's a second or third game, kind of watch a team, see how they play over maybe half a season or three-quarters of a season. You get a better feel for how a team functions. We've always believed in the running game, and we always will. It'll be a big emphasis of ours. Some games will have a little bit more success than others, but if you believe in something, you got to practice it every day. Everybody's got to buy in, and that gives you a chance to have success.
Mike, going back to the third down success by Robert in the passing game, was there anything he was doing differently yesterday in that regard? Was he more decisive? Was there anything else going on that he got better at? Yes.
Yeah, I think every time you're out there, you're hoping to get better. Sometimes it may be looking at a matchup on one-on-one, and maybe the structure of the defense, and maybe your footwork, and maybe a combination of all those things. But you got to decipher things very quickly as a quarterback, and you've got to go to the right receiver. You've got to make the right throw, and so often it's a combination of all those things.
Mike, we saw you guys break out the triple options, some unbalanced line, things like that. What do wrinkles like that do for an offense? What kind of problems do they pose for a defense?
Well, a lot of defenses, it doesn't propose a lot of problems. Some defenses it does. It all depends what their adjustments are, if we stay with something or not. Some teams can quickly adjust to it. Other teams don't. And if they don't, then we keep on we keep on running it and try to keep a team off balance, or maybe they might play the run and they don't play the play action pass or the drop back pass, and that's part of having a game plan.
How much does it help you being able to have that ability to run some of those things and have success on it?
Well, I think that the key is to have it in your offense. You don't have to run it a lot, but if you do have it in there and you feel like it's going well, you can keep on running it. If not, it may open something else. I think the more you can do as an offense and keep people off balance, the better off you are.
Mike, when Robert took off and dove through the air, spectacular play to watch. But as a coach, do you cringe a little bit and say, oh, boy, we don't want to see him take that type of risk?
Well, to be honest with you, Robert will take a look at that play and say, okay, if I had to do it over again, what would I have done not to put myself in that situation? And that's how you learn. He'll go back and say, oh, if I would have done this and that, I would never have put myself in that situation. And that's how you get better. And that's how quarterbacks have to be tough on they got to be tough on each other, but they got to be tough on themselves as they take a look and be very critical, because you don't want to put yourself in those situations too often. But I mentioned that after the game because it could show you the mindset that he had to make a play.
Mike, when you looked again at the blocked field goals, what did you see, and how much of a concern is that going forward?
Well, first of all, the guy that blocked the first field goal didn't penetrate the line. He did at the line of scrimmage, so the kick was too low. The second one, we had to drive it a little bit, a 59-yarder, and that hit the guy in the armpit. So both kicks were too low.
Did you see why that 25-yarder? Was there something with the hold, the approach, the kick that made it so low?
No, just kicked it low. Yeah.
Mike, how hard is it with the shortened work week to maybe add some different wrinkles that you were able to add for last week? Is it virtually impossible, or because you, again, already have it, some things in your scheme, you can add it pretty easily?
You better not add too much, because if you do, you don't have time to prepare for it. I think that goes for both teams. You can always put in a little wrinkle here or there, but mainly on a very short week, teams do what they do best.
When you guys had 3rd and 1 from the 14, there was a delay of game and then a timeout taken after a delay of game. It ended up not mattering, I guess.
You don't see that very often, do you?
That was a new wrinkle.
Yeah, it was a new wrinkle. We don't like that wrinkle. No.
You guys aren't going to run that one back?
No, we're not going to run that. Sometimes it's communication. Sometimes a person will take off on the wrong side. He'll hear the formation differently. There's a lot of things that occur, but it's embarrassing when that does happen.
Is there one moment from yesterday's game that you would consider the most encouraging for you?
I think there's a lot of encouraging things. Number one, we found a way to win a very tight football game against a team that was playing extremely well. I thought San Diego had done a good job of not giving up touchdowns. You had to earn everything you got because they were playing extremely well in the red zone. But at the end of the day, as I told our football team after the game, there are not too many teams that get 3 out of 4 games, 200 yards rushing. They should feel proud. And that's got to be our mindset, to take pride in something like that and keep on taking pride in those type of things, and you got a chance for good things to happen down the road.
During that goal line stand, can you feel the stadium? Like, can you feel the fans, everyone sort of holding their breath at that moment, or are you just so locked in? What is it like for you?
Well, your mindset is, totally on what they're doing, what type of formation they're coming out, but you could feel the crowd, the energy. They really helped us in that situation because of, the snap count, the crowd noise, fans are into it, and, one of the big advantages you have at home when the crowd does get into it like they did.
Like you talked a little bit about the short turnaround for the Thursday game. I mean, there was a time in the NFL where you wouldn't play those games very often. Now everyone plays one each year. Do you sort of dread that short week in the Thursday game, or do you welcome the challenge of it?
I really don't. I'm not really too concerned about it because Minnesota's got the same situation as we do. On the positive side, after you do prepare for a game and you play in a short week, it's kind of like a bye week because you have 3 out of 4 days off. They get a chance to recover, rest a little bit, kind of watch some games on the weekend. But it's, very hectic getting ready for this game. And like I said, both teams got to do it, and we're used to it.
I'm sorry, Grant. Go ahead, man.
Oh, that's cool. We talked a couple times last week about needing a number 2 receiver to step up. Hankerson made 5 catches and moved the chains a couple times. What'd you think of his play?
Well, more than just stepping up, and you see the catches, what we see is every play that he's in the game, both in the running game and the passing game. If the quarterback did go to him, is he open? And he played a very good game. He stepped up and did a lot of good things. If the quarterback would have looked his way, would he have been open or not? And the majority of the time he would have. He played an excellent game.
Mike, is this week even more of a challenge because Minnesota, it seems like every week they got a new quarterback. Their offense, obviously you're going to see a steady diet of number 28, but it seems like they've got a new guy throwing the football every week. And does that present challenges for you to look at film and say, who is this football team we're facing this week?
Well, they'll take a look at the game against the Cowboys, and they'll be impressed because they had 400 yards, right around 400 yards. They had the game won, gave it away in the last second. A team that played awful tough the whole game, ran the ball extremely well, stopped their running game cold. So they were impressive. It won't take long for that football team to get our attention.
Like David Emerson obviously had the interception, but he also helped save the touchdown on the disputed Danny Woodhead play there at the end with his tackle, and then also the third down coverage on that final sequence. Can you just talk overall about how he's developed and how pleased I assume how pleased you are with his play?
Yeah, David's got a big upside. I think everybody saw the interception; it was exceptional. His effort on that goal line play. Not many people could make that tackle, or corners want to make that tackle. Very impressive. And then there's a few plays in there that you can see he's a rookie. against a receiver that really ran some great routes. So the key to David will be that consistency, 60 minutes. But you did see some fantastic plays out of him, and I'm very encouraged about his future.
On your hypothetical injury report for today, you have Hankerson listed as limited with a hamstring. Anything very serious there, does it look like?
Well, to be honest with you, when you don't practice, it's really hard to put an injury report out. Nobody practiced, so I could have put the whole team on here. I saw Minnesota almost did put their whole team on here, so Hankerson's going to be fine.
I was going to ask the same thing about London because he's listed as well.
Yeah, he just got his knee drained. He's fine. Anybody that's getting treatment, we have to put down as limited today.
I want to ask you, because of what's happened with Coach Kubiak and Coach Fox over the weekend, obviously it's a high-stress 24/7 job that you work. Have you ever had to scale back a little bit, either, or tell maybe an assistant coach to scale back a little bit because you were concerned about the demands of the job?
Oh, there's no question about it. I've had a lot of coaches go down through the years, the stress of the job, and some person might not be feeling good, might be sick, and with that comes, stress as well. So, yeah, you got to be careful because, there's a lot of hours, there's a lot of pressure, and you got to keep an eye on your coaches because when they do get sick, a lot of times they can hurt themselves.
Mike, another, I guess, big picture issue that's been talked about today is what's going on in Miami. Obviously, that's not here, but I'm interested, a guy who was coached for 40 years, have you given pause at all to think about what's being talked about in Miami, the things that have been said, the locker room culture, and could you just put into words maybe your reaction when you first heard that?
To be honest with you, I really haven't listened to a lot of it because we've been pretty busy. I just a couple comments made by Tony and a couple other guys. I have never experienced that since I've been, in coaching. I've never experienced that type of locker room or that type of atmosphere. That was explained to me anyhow. You do get sometimes guys that are a little bit more nervous or, younger guys, rookies than other guys, and you kind of got to watch over them because sometimes one person might be a little bit shy, one person's a little different type of personality. And at least over the years, we try to keep an eye on those type of young guys. I'm talking about rookies coming out. Some people have hazing, other people don't. I've never been much into hazing, just the opposite. You want these guys to feel comfortable, even though they do have to carry shoulder pads and things along those lines. But everybody treats it a little bit different.
Going back to the coaching situation, and kind of an awkward question, I guess, but do you go over the contingency plans with your coaching staff? Like, based on what has happened to those guys, do you guys discuss that at all? Or is it just a matter of, Bobby Turner's assistant head coach, he'd take over if you got sick during a game or something like that?
Well, when I went to the funeral this year, Bobby did take over and did a heck of a job. He didn't let anybody get away with anything. Bobby's pretty tough. But, yeah, you're just, it's a stressful job. And, Gary's such a good friend of mine, and hopefully he's doing well, and John Fox is a good friend, and at least I texted her wives this morning to see how they were doing, and hopefully there's no setback with either guy. Anything else?
I want to go back to I'm sure I'm going to get some ragging for this. I want to go back to that Miami thing for just a second. How hard is it, Mike, for a coach to balance just the thought that this is a tough sport for tough guys, big guys, versus that's a real problem? I'm not saying I'm just maybe it's hypothetical, but I'm just trying to get your perspective just on how difficult that can be. Because I think it's easy for some people to say, suck it up, guy. But how tough is it to say that's a problem?
I don't think it's hard at all. If you think it's a problem, it's a problem. That's your job is, if you can see it and you believe it is, then you address the problem. I think that once you address it, usually the problem's over because you don't tolerate it. But sometimes someone might not be aware that's going on. I'm sure that's the case in Miami.
Mike, on kick returns, why has it been so hard for you guys to have running room? It seems like getting back to the 20s has been a challenge.
Yeah, it has. It just takes one block here or there. You go to at the end of the game, you're averaging the 20, 21, 22-yard line, and it's something that you're not used to. You want to get more yards. The team that's leading the NFL is 4 or 5 yards in front of you. Or this year it's 26 yards. So that's what you're working for, those extra 4 or 5 yards, and all of a sudden you just got to break one, and all of a sudden it changes. So hopefully we can do that.
Mike, what'd you think of Brandon Merriweather yesterday?
I thought he had one of his better games that I've seen him play. Very physical. Was really on point in a passing game as well. A lot of times when a guy comes back after being fine, he's a little tentative when he hits. He brought it. He brought it both in the running game and the passing game and made some great open field tackles, and he was ready to play. Really proud of him, the way he handled himself. Anybody else? Okay, thanks.